Motormouth Jenkins here, welcoming you to our brand new YouTube channel. Hope that you'll come back and see every segment each and every week, and I will share preventative maintenance tips and regularly scheduled maintenance tips for your car. So whether you know a little bit about your car or absolutely nothing, this is the channel just for you, where I share over 35 years of experience as a qualified and licensed service technician with truck and coach, light truck and passenger vehicles. Come back and visit us and tell your friends, and we'll see you each and every week right here in the Car Connection Workshop on YouTube. Hey, Niall Motormouth Jenkins here in the Car Connection Workshop. We got some cool stuff going on for you. How many of you have been told, oh, you need an oxygen sensor? I do? What the heck is an oxygen sensor? Well, you're going to learn it right here. We're at the Car Connection Workbench today and doing a little teaching. Well, you know what I have right here? That be a HEGO. What? You're saying heated exhaust gas organizer. In other words, well, there's oxygen sensors, then there's HEGOs. HEGOs have 4 wires. That's all you need to know. Not an ego. Leave your egos at the door. HEGO is a heated exhaust gas organizer, and that's what we have here. This is out of our 97 TJ Wrangler Rescue that we're working on, and this is a issue that I have to make correction on. But I thought, before I go and install this, because I do know that this oxygen sensor is working, I've tested it, but also when we had the Jeep actually running before we discovered the final blow, what put the Jeep in the wrecking yard was the engine blew up. So, and you'll have to check that out on our website as well, where you get to see pistons with holes in that shouldn't have holes. What happens when you neglect your vehicle's cooling system? So today I thought, before I go ahead and make correction to this, because notice there's wiring but there's no plug. We're going to talk about that in about 15 seconds here. This is a HEGO. It's 4 wires. That's what will tell you whether you have an oxygen sensor or a heated exhaust gas organizer. That's called a HEGO. This is a HEGO. So this is, and some vehicles have an upstream oxygen sensor and some have a downstream. And the 97 TJ Wrangler, Jeep TJ Wrangler, has an upstream and a downstream. This is the upstream. So this is the first oxygen sensor in the exhaust, and you're going to see where it goes in the exhaust in just a minute. Because I happen to have the exhaust, I ripped it right off with my teeth. The front pipe. We're getting ready to fire the engine up that we put in the Jeep. It's all in there neat and tidy. You'll have to watch those videos as well as the project comes together. And it's been actually, this month will be a year that we started the project. We were hoping to have it done in 30 days till we discovered the engine was blowed up beyond repair. So that kind of set us back. We needed to find a motor, then discovered that the 2.5 liter PowerTech, you just can't pull them out of the chest of drawers. They're not out there. So we have an upstream and a downstream. The upstream is the one that's really going to pay attention to the exhaust. So I like to describe it as a nose, because if you take a look at this, there's little teeny weeny little holes in it all the way around the tip. So it is basically a nose in your exhaust pipe sniffing the exhaust, then sending the information through the wires back to the computer to say the exhaust is too rich. That means there's unburned exhaust going out the tailpipe. Those are called NOx emissions, nitrates of oxygen. So that, in other words, NOx emissions means unburnt fuel, and that's what it's sniffing for. We don't want NOx emissions, unburnt fuel vapors, and unburnt exhaust gases going into the atmosphere. So it sniffs, then it reports through the wiring to the ECM, and it goes, not quite right down here. You might want to make an adjustment to the air-fuel mixture. So then other areas on the vehicle that are monitored by the computer will make air-fuel adjustments. Then it will continue to go, and too many times you start to get lightheaded. Just a minute. I'm getting a little dizzy here. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, so that's what this does. Where does it go? Where does it go? We're going to talk about this little ditty in a minute. Just take a look at that. Is that a chicken wing? Ain't no ting like a chicken wing. What does it taste like? Chicken. Where does this thing go? Well, I just happen to have the handy dandy component from the Jeep, because we have to make some custom exhaust for this Jeep because of an oil pan update. So see this port right here? So this is where the exhaust comes to first, from the engine down through there's a pipe going this way, and that would take us to the upstream catalytic converter, and on this particular Jeep it has a downstream catalytic converter with another oxygen sensor. So what's happening is the computer and the mandates for emissions is we need to sniff right where the source exhaust begins, which is right from the engine itself. So this threads in to this orifice right here. And so this is the first point of contact from the exhaust coming out of the engine. So through the pipe to the first catalytic converter, then the second catalytic converter doesn't have a HEGO, it has only 2 wires. So it's just a plain old simple, plain Jane oxygen sensor in the second catalytic converter. So it takes a reading upstream and downstream at the second catalytic converter. On our 2007 Toyota FJ Cruiser, we've got a oxygen sensor code for some reason, and we changed the upstream oxygen sensor last year when we had the exhaust upgraded to stainless and the lights coming on. You'll have to watch that video on our YouTube channel on the 2007 Toyota FJ Cruiser, because it needs these installing. We need to, I'll show you while we're here, because this is very interesting. I'll just share it with you. These are called oxygen sensor adapters. So sometimes what happens is they can get oversensitive. That if you look inside here, Skippy, show them, they can see the, don't worry, you have another one on the other leg, that the oxygen sensor's in the pipe. See the little bulb in there? Sometimes what can happen is the oxygen sensor may get bunged up. So you can put these adapters in, and we're going to try this out on the FJ Cruiser. I did do a little research online. So this adapter screws in here. It has a hole in the bottom so that it can sniff. But what it does is it pulls the oxygen sensor a little further back in the pipe so that the end, I cleaned this off. This thing was like Barnacle Bill on the end. You couldn't even see the little breather holes. And that's what can happen is they plug up, and then it'll throw an oxygen sensor light. So when you pull the codes off, it'll say O2 sensor bank blah 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 is not working. And so what happens is it plugs up these little breather holes. Now it can't breathe. It can't get a reading, a true reading, and it'll throw a light, yet the sensor is working. So what this adapter does is it brings the oxygen sensor out of the pipe, but it can still sniff, but it's away from material particles, exhaust particles coming through in the exhaust and plugging up those little breather holes. So it gives you an extension. So we're going to road test those. I've never used them before, but from some of the chat rooms that I went visiting for the 2007 FJ Cruiser, throwing an oxygen sensor code, and even my fella that did the exhaust who put the HEGO in there last summer is puzzled as well why it's throwing the same code that it was last year, and they they called me and said, you got a bad, a lazy O2 sensor, a HEGO. Would you want us to replace it? I said, well, you're pulling the exhaust off, so you might as well do it. So we're going to run our own road test on the 07 FJ Cruiser, so watch that video on our YouTube channel. We're going to install, and it has an upstream HEGO, heated exhaust gas organizer, and a downstream 2-wire oxygen sensor. So we're going to install an adapter to bring that oxygen sensor further away from the exhaust particulates to prevent the little breather ports, the little holes, so it can read the exhaust out of harm's way from the exhaust. Apparently what happens is it plugs them up, and then it gives you the oxygen sensor a false reading, flags the computer, puts the service light on, then you download the codes. It says you have an oxygen sensor issue, no communication, or it's out of range. So we're going to install these on the 07 FJ Cruiser. They're like less than 20 bucks. They're stainless steel, and then we'll erase the codes. We'll run the system. We'll make sure that we reset all the monitors and do a drive test and see if it comes back. So we're going to do a test with these. Is it a fix or is it a fallacy? Fact, fiction, true or false? So stay tuned for that video. So we're going to see if it works, see if it corrects it. Okay, here's the issue. The wiring to the 97 FJ, not FJ Cruiser, our TJ, Jeep TJ, somebody didn't bother fastening up the wiring. So this should be the plug end going to the wiring harness on the vehicle, and this should be the plug end going to the oxygen sensor, the heated exhaust gas organizer. Well, as you can see, when we don't fasten things up, fellas, properly, this got a little toasted on the side of the pipe where it comes down from the exhaust manifold. Not usable, would you say? So, Skippy and I are going to head out to the wrecking yard, and we got to find a Jeep that I can cut the section of wiring where we can now have a plug that disconnects from the vehicle wiring to the sensor wiring. That's how you start a fire, and once it gets going, the Jeep would be no more in literally seconds. So make sure you're fastening things up, because this oxygen sensor is still good. And to replace it, you're looking at over $100 for this, over $100. So as long as I can get the plug end for this, for the O2 sensor, and the plug end to go into the wiring harness, I can make amend and it'll be just fine. So not having to spend $100 or so. It may be more, I haven't looked it up, but they usually start around $90. So here's the other thing. So if I bought a new oxygen sensor with a plug on it, I still can't plug it into the car. Yeah. So when you're doing repairs, guys, be careful. I also, in closing, want to show you the sockets for getting oxygen sensors out. And there's a couple of different sizes, and these are really good. So instead of putting a wrench on it and rounding this off, which is what will happen, you get an oxygen sensor socket, and you see how this goes in there? It goes in there like that, doesn't break the wiring. You push that down, and you can get the oxygen sensor out and tighten it up. So I put it in by hand, and then I slip this on there, and then I just give it a That's it. You don't need it's not holding the engine in or the wheels on. You just give it, there's a gasket on the bottom. I put a little anti-seize on here, and then you're done. So there's two different types that you can get. This one will do multiple sensors. So you can use either or, whichever one floats your boat. You're not going to snap the wires off, so don't be afraid. There you go. You can use either or. I got both sockets so that I can do sensors and oxygen sensors, things with plugs on, and you don't want to cut the plug off just to get it out. So that's oxygen sensors in a nutshell. Any questions? Qu'est-ce que c'est? The answer's 28 today. So that's all you really need to know about them. They're not complicated. Just look at them as they're a nose in the exhaust. Sniffing, converting it to an electric signal, low voltage signal, going back to the computer and saying, hey, here's what's going on down here from the engine. It's a little too rich. We need to adjust the air fuel mixture. And all that happens on the fly while you're driving. So when the tip of this gets all bunged up with particulates, it's not going to read correctly. This is where we'll talk about in more detail, do vehicles need tune-ups anymore? And what you'll hear is two words, maintenance-free. Vehicles are not maintenance-free. What will happen is it'll be maintenance-free till the computer can no longer make adjustments to air-fuel mixture, and then here's what happens. A whole plethora of problems that now need to be dealt with because you bought into the idea of things are maintenance-free. Till next time, like, share, follow, and hit the notification bell on our YouTube channel, Niall Motormouth Jenkins, so you don't miss a single video. We upload 3 videos a week, 2 on Tuesdays and 1 on Friday. So follow us on Facebook as well at Niall Motormouth Jenkins, and like and share us with all your family and friends. Come back and visit us here in the Car Connection Workshop. You've been with us on the Car Connection Workbench today, learning all the tips and tricks that will help you enjoy happy, healthy motoring. See you in the next one. Well, thank you for stopping by the Car Connection Workshop right here on YouTube. Don't forget to come back and join us for another segment. So like, share, tag, and follow, and ding that bell so that you don't miss a single edition of Car Connection. So till next time, keep it under 100 and put the coffee on, because we're coming to your house.